You enter the chamber where no one dares to speak. The lamps are still lit, but barely. The air smells of iron and dust. And at the centre, on a low marble slab, lies the Emperor's body. Naked, untouched, swollen from decay. Eyes sealed, but somehow still watching. They haven't buried him. They haven't even cleaned him. Because the burial is not the end. It's the beginning. You hear the footsteps before you see them. A group of men cloaked in black wool step inside. No fanfare, no words, just leather gloves and a folded length of thick linen yellowed with age. One of them touches the corpse's chest, presses down, and waits. You want to turn away, but your eyes stay fixed. There is something ceremonial about their stillness, not grief, not reverence, something colder. This isn't vengeance. It's history correcting itself. And if you've ever wondered how power punishes itself, how a throne remembers, stay with me. This story doesn't end where his skin ends. Tap the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Now. Watch what they did next. The silence deepens. No screams. Not yet. Only the quiet beginning of something unforgettable. Before the blade touched him, before the linen soaked up his blood, he was untouchable. Not because he ruled with wisdom, but because no one dared speak his name without permission. His court whispered titles instead. The Stone Emperor, the voice that burned, the one who didn't blink. He was not born cruel, but cruelty obeyed him so quickly he made it law. The walls of his palace were lined with masks, real ones, taken from traitors, stripped from their faces. He said it reminded him that fear was more permanent than loyalty. He never shouted. He didn't need to. When he wanted someone gone, he lifted 2 fingers. If he raised 3, their family vanished too. He flayed rebels alive and displayed their skins above banquet tables. And yet, it wasn't enough. He kept a secret journal under his bed. In it he wrote, "Let them love me after death, if not before." But when death came, no one cried. There was no mourning, no hymns, no final kiss, only silence. Because behind the skin he was nothing they wanted to remember, and yet what they did next would ensure he would never be forgotten. It didn't happen during a war, or an uprising, or a public revolt. It happened in the quietest way possible. The Emperor died in his sleep, his lips stained black from the crushed berries he swore were safe. No witnesses, no grand exit, just silence, and a servant who didn't call the physician. When the guards arrived, they didn't sound the gong. They didn't summon the scribes, they just stared and waited. At first, no one dared move the body. But then came the general, his most loyal hound, cloaked in the same velvet he once kissed at coronation. The man who had once knelt for hours in snow just to deliver a message now stood barefoot in the Emperor's chamber, not to mourn, but to give the final order. "No burial," he said, "not yet." The gates of the palace were sealed. The public was told the Emperor had fallen ill. But inside, the real illness was legacy. They stripped the body of the royal symbols. No crown, no ring, no robe. They left only skin, because that was all he had ever ruled with. And then, in a voice that trembled but didn't waver, the general whispered, "Bring out the throne." They dragged it from storage at dawn. The throne he had sat on for 30 years. It was massive, ironwood wrapped in gold leaf, legs carved like lions, backrest shaped like a sunburst. He had commissioned it to be taller than any man, even while seated. But now the lions looked tired. The gold was peeling. The sun had cracked. They set it in the centre of the old council chamber, where the air still smelled of incense and secrets. And then they brought in the body, softened, bloated, and leaking salt from every pore. The general stood over it, silent. One by one, the servants began. First, the arms, carefully peeled, like parchment from a scroll. Then the legs, the chest, the back. They did not cry. They did not retch. This was not punishment. It was an instruction. His flesh was cut into broad sheets soaked in brine and stitched edge to edge into the fabric of the throne. No music, no prayer, only thread and blood and thread again. He ruled from this seat, the general whispered. Now let him serve it. By nightfall the throne was warm again, not with power, but with skin. No one sat on it the first week. The air around it was heavy, thick with something that clung to the lungs. The seam lines were still visible. The skin hadn't dried yet. And when the wind blew through the window slats, the stitches moved. Some said it groaned. The new regent refused to enter the chamber. He held court in the servants' hall instead, hunched on a stool, sweating through his silk. Temporary, he said. But months passed, and the throne remained untouched, looming, quiet, waiting. One day, a boy, an orphan raised in the kitchens, ran in as a joke and climbed into the seat. He didn't scream, he just froze. And when the guards pulled him off, his fingernails had broken against the armrests. His hair turned white by morning. He never spoke again. The rumours began after that. They said the throne remembered every order it had ever given, every execution, every lie, and that sitting on it meant hearing them all at once, as if the skin spoke back through fibres and folds and nerve endings that refused to forget. Some called it cursed, others said it was alive, but no one sat there again, not even the king. They could have burned his body. They could have buried him in the royal tombs beside the ancestors he pretended to revere. They could have erased him with silence, but they didn't. They turned his flesh into furniture. Because they weren't trying to destroy his memory, they were trying to trap it. Every tyrant leaves behind a shadow. Statues crumble, names fade, but legacies cling to the walls like smoke. The throne had once been a symbol of domination, of fear, of obedience stitched into every command. Now it was a warning. Every time someone entered that chamber they saw him, not in gold but in skin, not as a god but as meat. His power was reduced to fibres, his legacy, a chair that no one dared to sit on. It was the cruelest truth. He ruled to be remembered. But they remembered him exactly as he was, stripped down, sewn up, silent. This wasn't revenge, it was precision. And somewhere in the seams, beneath the brine and blood, the Empire left a message. You are not what you build. You are what we leave behind. Centuries passed. The Empire collapsed. Names changed. Flags burned. New kings came and went, carving their initials into marble as if stone could remember what history forgets. But the throne remained. Until one winter, it disappeared. No announcement, no ceremony, just gone. Some said it was dismantled piece by piece and fed into the fire that warmed the coronation of a gentler king. Others whispered that it was buried deep beneath the palace, behind a sealed wall, in a room no one dares open. The throne chamber was turned into a library. Bookshelves now stand where ministers once trembled. Children read where generals once begged for mercy. But one thing remains. At the centre of the room, beneath a polished tile near the hearth, there's a small crack. No one notices it. Not really. Until one day, a worker lifts the stone for repairs and recoils. Beneath it, dry folds of something once living. It isn't bone, it isn't cloth, it's skin, stitched, darkened, brittle with time. They say when the worker touched it, he heard a whisper, not from the mouth, but from the throne that never forgot. And in that moment, the room wasn't empty anymore. It remembered.